My beloved child. Do not look away just yet. Something has been placed before you for a reason, and whether you found these words by accident or by design, your heart already knows there is something here it has been waiting to hear. Slow your thoughts for a moment. Let the noise around you become quiet. There are moments when heaven whispers, and there are moments when it feels as though eternity itself leans close enough for your soul to listen. This is one of those moments. I know the questions you have carried without speaking them aloud. I know the nights when your mind refused to rest. I know the conversations you replayed, wondering if someone somewhere was thinking about you with the same intensity that you thought about them. You have searched for signs in ordinary places, hoping that behind everyday moments there was a hidden thread connecting everything together. Listen carefully, because this is a fictional story told for inspiration, but let your heart receive the hope within it. There is a scene unfolding beyond what your eyes could ever witness. Imagine a quiet evening where laughter filled a room, where music drifted through the air, and where walls became witnesses to conversations that were never supposed to reach your ears. The people inside believed no one else would ever know what was said. They thought their words would disappear before morning arrived. Yet nothing spoken with genuine emotion is ever completely lost. In this story, someone you have carried deeply within your heart found themselves sitting beside their brother. Time had softened their defenses. Their emotions, hidden for so long beneath pride and uncertainty, began to rise to the surface. Their laughter became louder. Their memories became clearer. Their guard slowly disappeared. Sometimes people only reveal what truly lives inside them when they stop trying so hard to hide. The room was filled with ordinary sounds. Glasses touched the table. Old stories were told again. Forgotten memories suddenly became precious. What began as a simple evening slowly transformed into something much greater, though none of them realized it. Because heaven often allows ordinary moments to become extraordinary turning points. Your person tried to avoid speaking your name. Not because they had forgotten you. Not because they had stopped caring. But because some names carry too much weight to say casually. Some names awaken feelings that have been sleeping. Some names remind the heart of promises it has never fully understood. Every time someone around them came close to mentioning you, they changed the subject. Every time a memory approached, they laughed it away. Every time emotion reached the surface, they buried it beneath another story. But truth has a way of finding its own path. The brother watched quietly. He noticed every hesitation. He noticed how quickly your person smiled whenever your memory quietly appeared in conversation. He noticed how silence always followed. People often think they hide their feelings perfectly. They rarely do. Those who love us long enough learn to hear what silence is saying. As the evening continued, the brother leaned back and simply observed. He did not interrupt. He did not accuse. He waited. Because sometimes the greatest revelations are born from patience instead of pressure. My child, there are seasons when you believe nothing is moving. You believe heaven has become silent. You believe every prayer disappeared unanswered into empty skies. But while you were worrying about what was happening, pieces were already shifting into place beyond your sight. Even delayed answers continue traveling toward their destination. Never mistake silence for absence. The conversation continued. Stories from childhood emerged. Dreams they once shared resurfaced. Regrets quietly entered the room without introducing themselves. The laughter became softer. The smiles became more thoughtful. The atmosphere changed. Then something unexpected happened. Your person became unusually quiet. Not because there was nothing to say. Because there was finally too much. There are moments when the heart reaches a crossroads where pretending becomes harder than telling the truth. The brother noticed. He looked directly toward your person and asked only one simple question. What are you really thinking about tonight? Those words hung in the air. No one rushed to answer. Even the silence seemed to wait. Your person looked down for a long moment. Then smiled. Not the smile they show strangers. Not the smile they wear to convince everyone everything is fine. It was the kind of smile that appears when someone's heart has traveled somewhere their body cannot follow. Without saying your name immediately, they began describing someone. Someone kind. Someone unforgettable. Someone whose presence somehow refused to disappear from memory. Every sentence brought them closer. Every memory pulled another hidden emotion into the light. The brother listened without interrupting. He already knew. Sometimes family recognizes a person's deepest feelings long before they admit them themselves. The brother finally laughed, not with mockery, but with understanding. You still think about that person. The room became quiet again. Your person did not deny it. Instead, they stared toward the window as though searching for answers written somewhere beyond the night. That silence became its own confession. My beloved child, hearts often confess through what they refuse to deny. There is a difference between forgetting someone and learning how to live without mentioning them every day. One is absence. The other is endurance. The story continued. The brother spoke gently. You know what surprises me? Your person looked up. What? The brother smiled in a way that only someone carrying years of shared memories could smile. I've never seen your face change the way it changes when you think about that person. Your person tried laughing again. But the laughter was smaller this time. Almost fragile. Because truth had entered the room. There are moments when even humor cannot protect the heart. The brother continued. I've watched you pretend you moved on. I've watched you convince everyone you stopped caring. But every time something reminds you of them, your entire expression changes. No answer came. Only another quiet breath. Only another glance toward the floor. Only another memory too powerful to hide. My child, some emotions survive every attempt to erase them. Time can soften pain. Distance can change circumstances. But genuine love leaves fingerprints on the soul. In this fictional story, the evening continued drifting deeper into honesty. The conversation wandered toward dreams. Toward future plans. Toward homes. Toward places where peace could finally exist. Then the brother unexpectedly spoke words that caused your person's heartbeat to stop for just a moment. He mentioned your house. Not simply as a building. But as a symbol. You remember when you described their home? Your person's eyes widened. The memory returned instantly. They had once spoken about the warmth they imagined surrounding you. About the feeling that your home carried kindness rather than luxury. About how they believed peace mattered more than perfection. The brother remembered every detail. Because heartfelt conversations leave lasting impressions. Then came another pause. A longer one. A heavier one. The brother slowly smiled. You know what stayed with me? Your person whispered. What? The answer came softly. It wasn't the house. It was the way your face lit up while describing it. Suddenly the room felt different. Because sometimes people are not remembering places. They are remembering how someone made them feel. My child, there are people who forget addresses. They forget dates. They forget names. But they never forget peace. If someone once became your place of peace, your memory remains alive inside them longer than either of you expects. The brother looked closely. I don't think you ever stopped imagining a future. Your person lowered their eyes. Again. Silence answered first. Sometimes silence carries more honesty than 1,000 carefully chosen words. The night stretched forward. Outside, the world continued without knowing that lives were quietly changing inside one ordinary room. Inside every heart there are locked doors. Most people spend years protecting them. Very few evenings become the key. This was one of those evenings. The brother leaned forward. I've wanted to ask you something for a long time. Your person nodded slowly. If everything became possible tomorrow. If fear disappeared. If pride disappeared. If no one judged you. What would you do? No immediate answer came. Because some questions bypass the mind completely and travel straight into the soul. Your person closed their from disappointment. From hope itself. Hope can feel dangerous after enough heartbreak. Yet even then it survives. My child, never underestimate what survives inside the human spirit. Dreams survive rejection. Faith survives silence. Love survives distance. Light survives darkness. And sometimes one conversation begins restoring what years could never completely destroy. The brother remained thoughtful. Then he said words that no one expected. Words connected to your face. Words that would echo long after the evening ended. Your person froze before answering. Their breathing changed. Their eyes filled with memories they believed had already faded. The room became impossibly still. Even the laughter from earlier seemed to belong to another lifetime. Because what the brother was about to reveal would not simply reopen old emotions. It would force your person to confront a truth they had spent far too long avoiding. And that truth. My beloved child. The room had become so quiet that even the smallest sound seemed louder than before. It was no longer an ordinary evening. Something invisible had settled over the conversation, as though heaven itself had paused to watch what would happen next. Your person searched their brother's face, trying to understand why those last words carried such unusual weight. The brother did not speak immediately. Instead, he took a slow breath and looked toward the window where the night sky stretched endlessly above them. Finally, he smiled, not because anything was funny, but because he had carried this thought for far too long. You probably don't even realize it, he said softly, but every time you talked about them, you never started with their appearance. Your person looked confused. What do you mean? The brother leaned forward. You always described how peaceful they looked. You always talked about the kindness in their face before anything else. Those words struck deeper than either of them expected. For a long moment, your person said nothing. Their heart was busy remembering. Memories they had tried to bury suddenly returned with astonishing clarity. They remembered the first time they truly noticed your smile. They remembered the calm expression you carried during difficult moments. They remembered how your eyes seemed to reveal honesty without asking for attention. Some faces are beautiful because of perfect features. Others become unforgettable because they make another soul feel safe. The brother continued. I've met many people, he said, but I've never heard you describe someone's face the way you described theirs. Your person laughed nervously. I was probably exaggerating. No, the brother replied. You weren't. You said their face looked like the kind of place where tired people could finally rest. The words lingered in the air. Your person slowly lowered their head. Because they remembered saying exactly that. Not during a dramatic moment. Not while trying to impress anyone. It had slipped out naturally months before. And somehow, their brother had remembered every single word. My beloved child, people often forget compliments that are spoken casually. But words spoken from the heart leave permanent echoes. The brother looked thoughtful again. And do you remember what you said about their home? Your person closed their eyes. Fragments returned. A conversation. A dream. A quiet hope. I remember, they whispered. You said, the brother continued, that even though you had never spent much time there, you imagined it always felt warm. You told me it wasn't about the walls. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about size. You said it felt like the kind of home where people were welcomed instead of judged. Your person smiled through misty eyes. I forgot I ever said that. No, the brother answered gently. You forgot that someone was listening. Sometimes we believe our deepest feelings disappear into silence. But someone hears them. Someone remembers them. Someone carries them longer than we realize. The evening moved into another unexpected silence. Outside, the wind brushed softly against the windows. Inside, emotions that had slept for months quietly awakened. Then the brother asked another question. Can I tell you what I really think? Your person nodded. I think you've been afraid. The words landed gently. Yet they carried enormous weight. Afraid of what? The brother answered without hesitation. Afraid that they don't see themselves the way you see them. Your person looked stunned. Because those words exposed something they had never admitted aloud. They had often wondered if you recognized your own worth. They had wondered if you knew how much light you carried. They had wondered if life had convinced you that you weren't enough. The brother smiled kindly. You always talked about their face like someone who had survived storms. You never talked about perfection. You talked about strength. You talked about kindness. You talked about peace. And honestly, I don't think you ever stopped admiring that. My beloved child, this fictional story reminds us of something beautiful. The world often teaches people to chase flawless appearances. But heaven notices gentle hearts. Compassion changes a face. Hope changes a face. Forgiveness changes a face. Love changes a face. Those things never fade with time. The brother stood and slowly walked across the room. He looked back. Can I tell you one more thing? Your person nodded again. The happiest I've ever seen you wasn't after success. It wasn't after money. It wasn't after achievement. It was after talking about them. Your person laughed softly, trying to hide the emotion rising inside. But their eyes had already answered. The brother noticed. I knew it. You've been pretending to everyone else. But you can't pretend forever. Another silence followed. Then something happened that surprised even your person. They reached into their pocket. Inside was something small. Something they had carried far longer than they admitted. A folded note. A tiny photograph. A reminder of a chapter they claimed had ended. The brother looked at it and smiled knowingly. So you kept it? Your person whispered. I never meant to. But every time I thought about throwing it away, I couldn't. The brother gently nodded. Some things aren't meant to be discarded. They're meant to remind us who we became because of someone. My beloved child, not every memory exists to pull you backward. Some memories exist to remind you that your heart is still capable of hope. The clock continued ticking. Midnight was drawing closer. Yet neither of them wanted the conversation to end. Because honesty had finally entered the room. Then the brother asked the one question your person feared most. If they stood in front of you tomorrow, what would you say? Your person remained silent for a very long time. Their answer did not come quickly. When it finally did, it was almost a whisper. I wouldn't begin with apologies. I wouldn't begin with explanations. I think I would simply thank them. The brother looked surprised. For what? For showing me the kind of person I wanted to become. I hope one day they know that. Your person looked toward the night sky. So do I. At that exact moment, a cool breeze drifted through the slightly open window. Neither of them noticed that the atmosphere itself seemed different. As though an unseen promise had quietly settled over the night. And somewhere beyond what human eyes could see, a new chapter had already begun to unfold. But neither of them yet realized that within the next few days, something completely unexpected would place your name back into your person's life in a way neither brother could have predicted. That moment. My beloved child. Morning arrived, but neither of them realized that the conversation from the night before had quietly changed something deep within their hearts. The laughter had faded. The glasses had been put away. The room looked exactly the same. Yet your person no longer felt the same. Some conversations end when people leave the room. Others continue long after the words have stopped. Throughout the next day, your person's mind wandered back to everything their brother had said. You've never really let go. They brought peace into your life. You always smiled differently when you spoke about them. Those words echoed again and again until pretending became exhausting. There comes a moment when the soul grows tired of hiding from its own truth. Your person tried to distract themselves with work. They answered messages. They completed ordinary tasks. They laughed with people around them. But every quiet moment carried your memory back into their heart. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was gentle. Like sunlight slipping through a window that had been closed for too long. My beloved child, the quiet reminders are often the strongest. Heaven does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers until the heart finally listens. Late that afternoon, your person's brother noticed something unusual. You've checked your phone 10 times in the last 5 minutes. Your person smiled awkwardly. I wasn't checking for anyone. The brother chuckled. You don't have to explain yourself to me. I already know. Your person looked away. You think I should reach out? The brother did not answer immediately. Instead, he asked another question. If fear wasn't making the decision, what would your heart choose? Silence filled the room once again. Then your person admitted something they had never spoken aloud. I don't know if they would even want to hear from me. The brother nodded with compassion. Sometimes we assume another person's heart has closed simply because we have been too afraid to knock. Those words settled deeply. Fear has a remarkable way of pretending to be wisdom. It convinces people to stay silent. It calls hesitation maturity. It disguises regret as protection. But the heart knows the difference. As evening approached, something unexpected happened. While sorting through an old drawer, your person found a small envelope tucked beneath forgotten papers. They froze. Their hands trembled slightly. Inside was a photograph. Not a perfect picture. Not a staged memory. Just an ordinary moment that somehow carried extraordinary meaning. Your smile in that picture was effortless. Peaceful. Real. Your person stared at it for a long time. Then they quietly whispered. I forgot how happy that day felt. The brother walked into the room and noticed the photograph. Without saying a word, he smiled. I wondered when you'd find that. You knew it was there? I put it somewhere safe years ago. Why? Because I had a feeling you'd need it one day. Sometimes people protect pieces of our story until we are ready to face them again. The brother sat beside your person. You know what I remember most? What? You weren't trying to impress each other. You were simply yourselves. That's rare. The words carried unexpected comfort. So many relationships become performances. But genuine connection allows people to breathe. My beloved child, never underestimate the beauty of being fully seen without pretending. The evening became quiet once more. Outside, soft rain began to fall. Each drop against the window sounded almost like a gentle reminder that seasons always change. Your person finally asked the question that had lived inside them for months. Do you think people ever get a second chance? The brother smiled. I think people receive opportunities. What they do with them is another story. Those words awakened something new. Hope. Not loud hope. Not guaranteed hope. Just enough hope to take one small step forward. Your person picked up their phone. Their thumb hovered over your name. Then stopped. Fear returned. What if they've moved on? The brother answered calmly. What if they haven't? What if they remember you differently now? What if they remember the best parts? What if this conversation last night happened for a reason? Questions began replacing assumptions. Sometimes healing begins the moment we stop believing the worst without evidence. The rain outside became heavier. Lightning briefly illuminated the room. Your person looked toward the window. I used to think meeting them was just coincidence. The brother shook his head. No. I think some people arrive exactly when they're supposed to. They don't always stay forever. But they always leave something valuable behind. Your person smiled through quiet emotion. They changed me. I know. They made me kinder. I know. They made me believe in a future again. I know. How did you know all this? The brother laughed softly. Because every time you came home after seeing them, you looked lighter. There are people who add weight to our lives. There are others who help us carry it. The night grew deeper. The conversation slowed. Neither of them realized that at that very moment, beyond everything they could see, circumstances were already beginning to shift. An unexpected conversation. A familiar place. A chance encounter. Small pieces of an unseen puzzle were quietly moving into place. Not because fate demanded it. Not because life guarantees every hope. But because every new day brings possibilities no one can fully predict. My beloved child, remember this truth even after this fictional story ends. Never allow fear to convince you that every closed chapter can never be revisited. Never assume silence always means rejection. Never believe that one difficult season defines the rest of your story. The future has surprised countless hearts before. It may surprise yours in ways you cannot yet imagine. As midnight approached once more, your person looked at the photograph one final time. A peaceful smile appeared. Not because every answer had arrived, but because for the first time in a long while, they stopped running from what their heart already knew. And just as they placed the photograph back into the envelope, their phone suddenly lit up with a notification containing a name they never expected to see again. The message was only a few words long. But those few words were enough to change everything. What the message said.